Now, let's take a moment to honor Shelly Johnson, the owner of the Washington Mystics, who suggested that the WNBA as a whole, not just Caitlin Clark, should have been featured on the cover of Time magazine. 2 months apart, Johnson made two shocking revelations of hypocrisy. She publicly downplayed Caitlin Clark's Time Athlete of the Year award, arguing that the entire WNBA should receive the honor rather than just one player. However, many people are taking note of the fact that we all remember Sheila Johnson, the owner of the Mystics, who appeared on CNN and expressed displeasure over Cale Clark receiving the Time Magazine Athlete of the Year award. The basketball world is exploding with reactions to Johnson's recent announcement about Fever Games. The same owner who claimed that Caitlin Clark wasn't the only one drawing attention to the league is now making business decisions that prove the exact opposite. The shocking statistics behind her latest move tell the real story that Johnson doesn't want you to hear, so stay put because we have all the receipts, including one award where Johnson was eerily silent. Are you ready to go? Where Caitlin Clark was named Athlete of the Year? Why couldn't they have put the entire W? Because of all the talent we have. You may recall the time a WNBA owner publicly criticized Caitlin Clark's time as an Athlete of the Year in a CNN interview. It has taken the WNBA nearly 28 years to reach this point, and this year something clicked with the WNBA, and it's because of the draft of the players that came in. It's not just Caitlin Clark, it's Rays. There is a ton of unrecognized talent out there, and I don't think we can just blame one player. Let's take a look at what Johnson actually said, because this statement raises an interesting question. Was Johnson genuinely concerned about team morale, or was there something else driving these comments? Johnson said that rather than honoring Clark individually, Time should have recognized the entire W. For a moment, consider that logic. An individual achievement award meant to celebrate one standout performer should have somehow been divided up among more than 100 players, because when you just keep singling out one player, it creates hard feelings. However, Johnson went one step further and suggested that there was a racial component to Clark's recognition. I feel really bad because I've seen so many players. Johnson's statement turned what could have been a debate about individual versus collective recognition into something much more polarizing. This has been referred to as the Caitlin Clark effect. Why do you think that has been the case? Well, I want to be very diplomatic about this, but it's just the way the media portrays race. I'm going to be really honest, because I feel terrible, because I've seen so many players of color who are equally talented and they never got the recognition that they should have. And I believe that now is the time for that to happen. The criticism is especially perplexing because it totally ignores the quantifiable impact Clark had on the league. The numbers show that when the Fever played the Mystics last year, Johnson's own team had an average attendance of about 200, zero fans. But when other teams came to the Mystics, they had trouble filling even 5,000 seats. This isn't just a bump in attendance, it's a seismic shift in fan engagement. Caitlin has brought a ton of new opportunities, a ton of new eyes, and more money to the sport, so instead of downplaying the magnitude of who she is and what she's brought, enjoy the ride and make the most of it. While the NBA's ratings continue to decline by over 30% as they attempt to determine who will be able to fill the shoes of LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry, the WNBA has a golden goose sitting in their league and has done everything in their power to undermine the momentum and attention she's brought to the game, putting butts in seats. Her presence in the league caused attendance at Fever Games to increase threefold and jersey sales to jump by an incredible 1,000%. These aren't just impressive statistics, they are transformative figures that show how one player can elevate an entire league's profile and financial prospect. Caitlin is someone who, if you look at it, has done everything you're supposed to do and has been criticized along the way again. She's damned if she does and she's damned if she doesn't. The biggest revelation about this situation is how Clark herself responded to the criticism. Instead of retaliating or getting sucked into needless drama, She took the high road during her Time magazine interview. Clark dismissed any suggestions of jealousy within the league and dismissed defensiveness and counterattacks, just quiet confidence in her own journey. We know how this owner feels about Caitlin Clark, so let's not forget that pattern of behavior became crystal clear when A'ja Wilson recently received one of the league's Women of the Year awards. Johnson's passionate speech about recognizing the entire league vanished faster than expected. Johnson's criticism was intended to minimize an individual achievement and frame it as potentially harmful, while the other demonstrated grace under pressure and refused to be baited into division. When it wasn't Caitlin Clark who was in the spotlight, Time magazine recently announced A'ja Wilson as one of their Women of the Year, celebrating her incredible contributions to women's basketball. This prestigious individual recognition put Wilson in the same position as Clark, who had been honored for her accomplishments just months earlier. It was the ideal opportunity for Sheila Johnson to once again defend her purported beliefs about team recognition over individual accolades. Time magazine backed themselves into a difficult situation with this latest blunder. This is a whiskey riff right here. Crowned their Athlete of the Year last year, and they did the right thing by awarding the title to Caitlin Clark of the Indiana Fever. Surprisingly, there was some backlash against the decision, which is ridiculous, with many WNBA players arguing that the award should have gone to the entire league rather than just Clark. However, she didn't say a word, leave a comment, or appear on CNN this time, making a passionate plea that the WNBA should have honored all of its women rather than just Wilson. The Mystics owner's silence revealed what was truly driving her previous criticism. Recall all those worries about inciting animosity among players when individuals receive special treatment? The Mystics owner went on CNN and said, "I think it would have been nice if they put the entire league on the front cover of Time magazine as Athlete of the Year, but there wasn't. Instead, there was only one athlete who was moving all the numbers, influencing all the money gate, revenue, attendance ratings, and all the stuff we talked about. Apparently, those concerns have an expiration date, or perhaps they were never genuine in the first place." Wilson's honor represented the exact scenario Johnson claimed to be troubled by, but her principles mysteriously disappeared overnight. 22 NBA player Lexi Brown publicly called out the double standard, posting, "Can we please stop taking steps backwards?" Her frustration mirrored what many players were thinking. If the concern was really about fairness and team unity, why did that concern only apply when Clark was in the spotlight? In contrast to Johnson's earlier claims about players becoming resentful, Wilson's achievement was widely celebrated throughout the league, with players supporting rather than resenting her individual recognition. This stark contrast highlights something troubling about Johnson's originalism. Convictions to once again argue that individual honors diminish collective achievement, but instead she remained silent, implying that her initial outrage had nothing to do with preserving team unity and everything to do with who's getting the recognition. Remember, this is a business. So when Nike signs an athlete, they want to get a return on their investment. How do they do that? Because that athlete resonates. He understands that Caitlin Clark's jerseys, apparel, and shoes will sell if she has an apparel deal. Let's face it, if Johnson truly believed that individual accolades created division in women's basketball, her response to both honors would have been the same. When two superstars receive nearly identical individual recognition just months apart, and a team owner only criticizes one of them, we're not talking about principles anymore. We're talking about targeting. Why do you think Johnson is selectively targeting Clark? Let us know in the comments. The Mystics were moving the two games that were coming to their town with Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever to Baltimore right now, in case you're wondering. I'm curious that the Mystics' home arena, where they typically play and boast about selling out, only has 4,200 fans. Come on. That's right. Johnson's values of team over individual lasted as long as it took to figure out how much money could be made from tickets, when she subtly revealed that the Fever games would be moving from a 4,200-seat arena. This was a business decision that went against everything she claimed to stand for. And when Caitlin K came to town, they moved it to a 400-seat arena. Almost 1,000 more fans, Johnson. made a calculated announcement that revealed her true beliefs about the Washington Mystics moving their home games against the Indiana Fever to CFG Bank Arena in Baltimore. This wasn't just any venue upgrade. It represented more than tripling their capacity, going from the entertainment and sports arena's small 4,200 seats to a facility that can hold nearly 1,400 fans. What makes this decision so revealing isn't just the change itself, but the selective application. Johnson didn't announce a permanent move to a larger venue for all Mystics games. She didn't even choose games against several elite teams. Even though we all know Caitlin Clark tickets are pricey, the presence of a team that features the player Johnson publicly suggested wasn't solely responsible for the league's growing popularity means that the gate prices for the game will actually go up. In other words, just like that preseason game, which had tickets for $4,500, the financial implications are unavoidable, as there will be nearly 1,000 more tickets available per game, all of which are likely to be sold at premium prices given the demand. The revenue potential becomes astounding. A conservative estimate would suggest millions in additional ticket revenue from just these games alone, all driven by the basketball fans quickly realized the contradiction between Johnson's words and her actions, and social media erupted with calls to action. One fan didn't mince words. Wasn't this the same owner who downplayed CeCe's impact and reduced her? Now she's milking the money, drawing power of the very player Johnson had tried to downplay, raising the amount of money it will cost to get into this game. She may end up lining her own pockets with more money because the gate prices may go way up, and she's going to force Caitlin Clark fans to pay additional money to get into the game. They weren't just online critics, they were WNBA supporters who saw the contradiction between criticizing individual recognition and profiting from individual star power. This year, something clicked in the WNBA because of the draft. Another fan pointedly asked if the Mystics should move all of their games there because their owner didn't seem to want to give Caitlin any credit for the women's basketball movement, but is good with extra profits from Fever games. Wait, why just the Fever games? Why not every game? Or are you choking on your words about the face of the league?